Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to discuss the competency focused practice questions of short and long type questions of Julius Caesar. If you already know, we have done the multiple choice questions and we have also done the short and long questions of prose and poetry. So if you have not watched that video, make sure you watch them before your board examination. So shall we begin? So the first extract is from Act 3, Scene 1. Antony says, "Post back with speed and tell him what hath chanced. Here is a morning Rome, a dangerous Rome. No Rome of safety for Octavius yet. Hie hence and tell him so yet. Stay a while. Thou shalt not back till I have borne this corpse into the marketplace. There shall I try, in my oration, how the people take the cruel issues of these bloody men. According to which thou shalt discourse to young Octavius of the state of things. Lend me your hand." So this is what Antony says. The first question, what instructions does Antony give the servant? So shall we recall what instructions Antony gave the servant? First is ride back quickly and tell Octavius what has happened. So first he has to tell Octavius what has happened. Next, warn him that Rome is dangerous and not safe for him. Then the servant should not leave until Antony has taken the body of Caesar to the marketplace and until Antony tests the reaction of the people during the speech. Based on that, the servant has to explain the situation to Octavius. And what was the final instruction he gave the servant? To help Antony carry the body of Caesar to the marketplace. So these were the various instructions Antony gave to the servant. If you want, you can pause the video, go through this answer once again, recall every bit of it, then you can proceed to the next question. The next question, why does Antony say Rome is dangerous? Whom is it not safe for and why? So there are three questions. Why is it dangerous? For whom it is not dangerous and the reason for it. So Rome is dangerous because Julius Caesar was brutally assassinated by the conspirators and there was panic and chaos everywhere. So that is why Rome is dangerous. Why was it not safe? So it was not safe for Octavius because he is the nephew and the heir to the throne after Julius Caesar. And that is why it was not safe for Octavius, because first Antony had to see the reaction of the people after his speech and accordingly he would ask Octavius to come or not. The next question, mention any three predictions that Antony makes when is left alone with Julius Caesar's dead body. So I have written 5 predictions here. You can write any 3. So the first, curse shall fall upon the limbs of men. Isn't that the first one he said? What is the second one? Domestic anger and fierce civil conflict will plague all parts of Italy. Third, blood and destruction will be so common and terrible sights so familiar that mothers will smile when they see their babies hacked to death by war. The fourth point, all compassion will be choked by the habit of cruel deeds. Fifth one, Caesar's spirit along with goddess 8. Who's goddess 8? She's the Greek goddess of destruction and she would come fresh from hell and cry havoc and unleash the dogs of war, and foul crime will reek above the earth and rotting corpses will be groaning for burial. So out of this you can write any 3 predictions. But according to me, I would definitely recommend writing point 2, point 3 and point 5. Next question. What was Brutus's and Cassius's opinion of Antony? Whose assessment about Antony was correct? Justify your answer. So, what was Brutus's opinion about Antony? Brutus considered Antony harmless. Biggest mistake, isn't it? And a person who was more interested in sports and merrymaking. He calls Antony the limbs of Caesar and believes that once the head is gone, which is Caesar's head is gone, Antony will be harmless and powerless. So that's what Brutus thought about Antony. And therefore, he allows him to speak at the marketplace under the permission of Brutus. But what was Cassius's opinion of Antony? Cassius mentioned that Antony is a shrewd contriver, that is, he's a crafty planner, and through his power, he can hurt us. Cassius also says that Antony can influence and move people by his words, and therefore considered it dangerous and warned Brutus not to allow Antony to speak in the pulpit or in the marketplace. And who was right? We all know that Cassius was right because Antony, through his speech, swayed the public opinion and made the people rise in mutiny against the conspirators. So Antony was right and Brutus misinterpreted Antony's character. The final question from this scene: what aspect of Antony's character are revealed during Act 3 and Act 4? So, we get to know that Antony is a caring and loyal friend to Caesar, and that is why he was furious, or you can say upset, that his friend has been assassinated. So, first is that of a caring and loyal friend. The second character that is apparent is he also has a very ruthless and arrogant side where he uses Lepidus as a scapegoat and just to get their work done, and he compares Lepidus to a horse and an ass. So we get to see another side of Antony. The next character we get to know about him is that he's cunning because he uses deceit and oratory skills to sway the opinions of the crowd. And Antony is devious when necessary because he plans to cheat the people by altering the will just to incite them. So he's also a strong politician who plans to eliminate people and even his ally Lepidus at the end once his cause was fulfilled. But I have included this. This is from Act 5. But just in case they ask you throughout the scenes, then you can include this. At the end, after all this, he praises Brutus and recognizes his true intentions, unlike that Brutus is unlike the other conspirators. Okay, so we have completed Act 3, Scene 1. Let's go to the next question. So this is from Act 3, Scene 2. Antony says, "You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. It was on a summer's evening in his tent. That day he overcame the Nervi." So the first question, who were the Nervi? Why does Antony mention the names of Cassius, Casca, and Brutus as he shows the mob the mantle? Okay, so Nervi is a powerful and fierce Belgic tribe in northern Gaul, and Caesar had won against them. So many of us wouldn't know this answer, so now at least make sure you learn it, because if it comes in the examination, you should know, because these questions that we're solving now were released by the ICSE board. Then what does Antony tell about Casca? He says, "See what a tear the envious Casca made." Then about Brutus, Antony says that when Brutus stabbed and then pulled the cursed steel away, that is the dagger, and the blood of Caesar followed it, the blood came to check or to resolve whether Brutus had so unkindly knocked or not, because Brutus was Caesar's angel, and this was the most unkindest cut of all because Caesar's mighty heart burst when he saw that Brutus had stabbed him. Then about Cassius, he says that see the place where Cassius's dagger ran through. So in short, he wants to stir the emotions of the crowd and win the mob to his side. And he incited them to take revenge. So here he uses antithesis. So what is antithesis? Antithesis is a figure of speech where two completely contrasting ideas are placed together. So in one side he's saying that Brutus is an honorable man, and on the same side he's also saying that he has hacked Caesar to death. So he uses antithesis to win the people to his side and incite them to mutiny. The next question, state 3 arguments put forward by Antony earlier to prove that Caesar was not ambitious. So when he mentions to the crowd, he gives 4-5 reasons. So among that, we are supposed to at least mention 3. So to show Caesar was not ambitious, he says, Caesar has brought many captives to Rome and their ransoms have filled the public treasury. Then, when the poor have cried, Caesar has wept with them. So he says that ambition is made of sterner stuff. People who are ambitious usually don't cry with the poor. And another point is, Caesar refused the crown thrice when he was offered it during the feast of Lupercal. So he says that if Caesar was ambitious, he wouldn't have refused the crown thrice. So all these points shows that Caesar was not ambitious according to Antony. The next question, why does Antony refer to Brutus as well loved? Why was the stabbing of Caesar by Brutus referred to as the most unkindest cut of all? So first of all, Antony refers to Brutus as well beloved because he is actually making a sarcastic remark as Brutus had betrayed Caesar. And why does he call the unkindest cut of all? Because Antony says that Caesar loved Brutus dearly and he was Caesar's angel. When noble Caesar saw Brutus stab, ingratitude that was more powerful than the traitor's arm completely conquered him, and then Caesar's mighty heart burst. The next question, mention 3 ways Brutus's speech differs from Antony's. So first, let's discuss Brutus's speech. So Brutus's speech, he only speaks facts and he gives reasons, where he uses logic and republican ideals. So he appeals to the mind of people. He is blunt, honest, and he tells facts as they are and does not try to manipulate the crowd. So his intent here is just justifying the reason of why they had to kill Caesar. So he's speaking facts, he gives reasons, he's honest, blunt, and does not try to manipulate the crowd. Now let's see how Antony's speech is different. Antony's speech is based on few facts. He uses irony. He uses cunning rhetoric, antithesis. He skillfully manipulates the emotions and minds of the people. He uses vivid storytelling, where he narrates the entire scene of how Caesar was stabbed and what he felt. So, he uses the feelings of grief, betrayal, and resentment. So, his main intent was to avenge, to take revenge for Caesar's assassination and also to rile the crowd against the conspirators. The next question, what characteristics of the mob is highlighted in this scene? State any 2 characteristic traits of Mark Antony revealed in this scene. Justify your answer by giving a suitable reason. So first we have to mention the characteristics of the mob and 2 characteristic traits of Mark Antony. So let's discuss the characteristic trait of the mob. They are fickle-minded. They can easily be swayed. And they have high emotional responsiveness. Also, they have great susceptibility to manipulation. What other things do we know about them? They don't show constant loyalty. They are easily swayed. So first they were very loyal to Brutus. When they listen to Brutus's speech, they want to crown him the king, and suddenly they want to murder him when they listen to Antony's speech. And also that they are driven by basic needs. That means they have a selfish appeal, because when Antony mentions about the will of Caesar and what Caesar has left for them, they immediately get riled up. So they do not have a reasoning of their own. So these are the characteristic traits of the mob. Then characteristic trait of Antony, he's a master manipulator. He's a shrewd politician who's ruthless. He's a great orator where he has great persuasive power. I have not written the explanation because I have explained in other questions how he is a master manipulator, how he's a shrewd politician or he's ruthless, because he kills about 100 senators through proscription and bills of outlawry. And he also wanted to get rid of Lepidus once his purpose was served. So all this shows that he was a shrewd politician as well. The next is from Act 4, Scene 3. Brutus says, "You wronged yourself to write in such a case." Cassius says, "In such a time as this, it is not meet that every nice offense should bear his comment." So the first question, where are Brutus and Cassius? Why does Brutus make the above statement? So I hope you have already recognized when this was mentioned. So this takes place in Brutus's tent. A letter for recommendation was sent by Cassius favoring Lucius Pella, who had been accused of taking bribes from the people of Sardis. So Brutus makes the statement after Cassius writes the letter supporting Lucius Pella. Second question, immediately after this extract, what does Brutus accuse Cassius of? And why does he do so? How does Cassius react to it? So Brutus accuses Cassius of having an itchy palm for selling and trading his position for gold to those who do not deserve it. And what was Cassius's reaction? Cassius gets hysterical with rage and says that if it was anyone else other than Brutus, that would be his last speech. The next question, later, in what context does Brutus remind Cassius of the Ides of March? How does Brutus express his distaste for accepting bribes? So Brutus reminds Cassius that on the Ides of March, Julius Caesar bled for justice's sake. Caesar, the greatest man in the world, was killed because he supported robbers. And now shall we defile our hands with base bribes and sell our position for small gains? So he says that he will rather be a dog and howl at the moon than be such a Roman. So this is the context under which Brutus talks about the Ides of March. The next one, what reason does Brutus give for not being afraid of Cassius's threat later in the scene? What does he accuse Cassius of then? And what was Cassius's reply? Brutus says that he's not afraid of Cassius's threat because Brutus is strongly grounded in honesty, and that the threats pass him like an idle wind which he does not pay attention to. And what does he accuse Cassius of? Brutus had asked for certain sums of gold to pay his army, which according to him Cassius had denied. And what was Cassius's reply? Cassius says that he did not deny, and it was a fool that brought his answer back. So always in the exam, make sure that after writing the answer, you see if you have answered every part of the question. Otherwise, you're going to lose marks simply because you forgot to write a particular part. And the last question, give one character trait to each of Cassius and Brutus as revealed in this scene. Justify with the help of instances from the scene. Okay, so about Brutus, what can we write? We can write as he is dignified and righteous because he condemned and reported Lucius Pella for taking bribes from the Sardines, even if Cassius pleaded on Lucius's behalf. And what characteristic trait can be mentioned about Cassius? He is practical and far-sighted. In this scene, he gives the reason that instead of marching to the enemy, it is better that the enemy seeks us so that they won't waste their provisions, they won't tire out their soldiers while they remain still, rested, energetic, and nimble. So he did not want to march to Philippi, but Brutus says that they have to. So in this, we can get to know that Cassius is practical and far-sighted. The next is from Act 4, Scene 3. Brutus says, speak no more of her. Give me a bowl of wine. In this I bury all unkindness. Cassius, and they drink. Cassius says, my heart is thirsty for that noble pledge. Fill Lucius till the wine overflows the cup. I cannot drink too much of Brutus's love. A, who is referred to as her in the first line of the extract, and what had she done? Why did she take that step? So we all know that it was about Portia, isn't it? So Portia, the wife of Brutus, had killed herself by swallowing burning coal. And what led her to do that? The impatience of Brutus's absence. And she was upset that young Octavius and Mark Antony had become powerful, which made her delusional and kill herself. Next, how was Brutus related to the above lady? Why did he wish not to discuss the matter related to her? What does this tell about his nature? So Brutus's wife is Portia. So Portia is Brutus's wife. He's overwhelmed with grief and felt he needs to concentrate on the war. This shows that he is stoic in nature. Who comes to meet Brutus and Cassius immediately after the quoted lines, and what news do they bring? So it is Messala and Titinus who come, and they share the news that Octavius, Lepidus, and Antony have put to death 100 senators through proscription and bills of outlawry. And Cicero, who was one of the conspirators, was also killed. So he was one of the 100 senators who were put to death. The next question, explain the term triumvirate in this context. Name the members of the second triumvirate. So triumvirate is a group of 3 people who ruled Rome. So in the second triumvirate, the 3 people are Mark Antony, Octavius Caesar, and Lepidus. The next question, Brutus and Cassius had different ideas about how best to defeat the enemy. What were their strategies and whose strategy was adopted? Okay, so they were discussing whether or not to march to Philippi. So what was Cassius's strategy? Cassius gives the reason that instead of marching to the enemy, it is better that the enemy seeks them so that the enemy waste their provisions. They tire out the soldiers while Cassius and Brutus's army remain still, rested, energetic, and nimble. And what was Brutus's strategy? He says that people between Philippi and here are in forced affection, and if the enemy march through them, they will gain additional numbers, and the soldiers will be refreshed, renewed, and encouraged. So Brutus says that our troops are in full capacity. A cause is ready and they are at their peak. They are only ready to decline. And after this, whose strategy was adopted? Brutus's strategy was adopted. The next extract is from Act 5, Scene 3. Messala says, "Is not that he?" Titinus says, "No, that was he, Messala, but Cassius is no more. O setting sun, as in thy red rays thou dost sink tonight, so in his red blood Cassius's day is set. The sun of Rome is set. Our day is gone. Clouds, dews, and dangers come. Our deeds are done. Mistrust of my success had done this deed." So the first question, where does the scene take place and what is the nature of the relationship that Titinus and Cassius share? So the scene takes place in an elevated spot overlooking the battlefield at Philippi. And what was the relationship of Titinus and Cassius? They were best friends and fellow soldiers. The second question, give two words that would best describe Titinus's mood in the given extract and justify your choice of words. So Titinus felt despair, or you can write sorrowful, defeated, or guilt, or remorse. Because he says that the sun of Rome has set and dangers approach and we are doomed or finished. So he feels defeated. Cassius believed that he would not return from his mission, so he killed himself. So, mistrust of his success has done this deed. So, he feels guilt or remorse here. The third question, earlier in Act 5, Cassius shares some facts about himself with Messala. What are these facts? So the first thing that he says that it was his birthday, the day that Cassius was born. Then he also says that against his will, he is forced to put all their liberties at stake. Then he says that he used to believe in Epicurus and his teachings, but now he has changed his mind and now he believes partly in things that predict the future. If you remember, he talks about first the eagle perching in their hands and eating from the hands of the soldiers, but later when they reach Philippi, it was replaced by ravens, crows, and kites. The next question, how does Cassius die and what were his dying words? So, how does Cassius die? He dies by assisted suicide, where Pindarus stabs Cassius on his insistence. And what were his last words? He says, "Caesar, thou art revenged, even with the sword that killed thee." Coming to the last question, what does the phrase "this deed" in the last line of the extract refer to? Explain in your own words what Titinus mean by "mistrust of my success had done this deed." So what happened because of that? Cassius's death. So Cassius asked his friend Titinus to ride to the camp to see if the troops there were friends or foe. Pindarus watches the progress of Titinus and mistakenly believes that Titinus has been surrounded by the enemies and has been taken captive. He reports this to Cassius, and Cassius believes that he has sent his friend to his death, and guilt engulfs him and therefore asks Pindarus to kill him. So this was the mistrust that led to Cassius killing himself. And yes, we have completed all the questions. Wasn't it refreshing to revise these various questions? I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please subscribe and share this video among your friends. Do very well in the examinations. Make sure that you revise the umpteen number of times and solve all the videos that I have uploaded regarding prose poetry and Julius Caesar. It will definitely help you in your examinations. Thank you and God bless.